Hello, passionate Celtic FC fans. This is Celtic Central News, your exclusive source for Celtic updates. Before we kick off, we appreciate the incredible support. If you love Celtic, subscribe now, hit like, and let's build this community together. Now, onto the latest news. A warm welcome to new subscribers. Your support is crucial. Hail, hail. There has been a stir bubbling beneath the surface of Scottish football, the kind of whisper that starts in quiet corners and suddenly takes on a life of its own. And at the center of it all is James Tavernier, a figure who rarely finds himself outside the headlines, but now seems to be right in the eye of a storm. Word has been spreading that the Rangers FC captain has let his guard slip in a private setting, allegedly making pointed remarks about Celtic FC and, more specifically, some of their players. The rumor suggests he didn't hold back, reportedly questioning the technical level of certain individuals and labeling them as lacking quality. Now, whether these words were said in frustration, banter, or something more calculated is anyone's guess, but in a rivalry as fierce as this one, even the slightest spark can ignite a wildfire. Fans on both sides have started picking up on the chatter, dissecting every possible angle, wondering what might have triggered such a bold stance. It is not just about what was said, but what it might reveal about the mindset inside the Rangers' dressing room, and whether this reflects a deeper confidence or perhaps even tension that has been simmering quietly behind the scenes for some time now. As the rumor continues to gather pace, the tone of the alleged comments attributed to Tavernier paints a picture of a player who feels his side, holds a clear edge, not just in mentality, but in technical ability as well. There is talk that he singled out a few unnamed Celtic players, suggesting they were not operating at the level expected in such a historic rivalry, hinting that their performances lacked the finesse and sharpness required at the top end of Scottish football. Now, this kind of language, if true, is not just provocative, it is deeply personal within the context of the old firm narrative. It raises questions about whether Tavernier's confidence is rooted in recent performances on the pitch or whether it stems from something seen in training, analysis, or even previous encounters that have shaped his perception. Supporters have been quick to interpret this as a sign of belief, a captain rallying his own side by diminishing the opposition, but others see it as risky, potentially handing Celtic extra motivation. The dressing room dynamics across both clubs could be influenced by such talk, especially if these whispers begin to feel more like reality than speculation. Within the Rangers camp, there is a sense that this alleged outburst could be part of a broader narrative of asserting dominance, of trying to mentally edge ahead before any ball is even kicked. Tavernier, as a leader, has always carried himself with a certain authority, and this rumor adds another layer to that persona, suggesting he might be willing to engage in psychological warfare if it benefits his side. Some insiders have hinted that the comments came during a moment of candid reflection, perhaps after reviewing footage or discussing tactics, where frustrations and opinions flowed more freely than usual. If that is the case, it would not be the first time a player's honest assessment has found its way into the public domain, reshaped and amplified along the way. Yet, what makes this particularly compelling is the target of those remarks, because speaking about Celtic players in such dismissive terms is never going to go unnoticed. It invites scrutiny, debate, and inevitably a response, whether direct or through performances on the pitch that aim to silence the noise. On the other side of the divide, the reaction among those connected to Celtic has been one of intrigue mixed with quiet defiance. While there has been no official acknowledgement of the alleged comments, the rumor alone is enough to stir emotions within a club that prides itself on resilience and pride. Some believe that if Tavernier did indeed question the technical ability of Celtic players, it could serve as a powerful motivator, fueling a desire to prove him wrong in the most emphatic way possible. Others, however, see it as mind games, an attempt to unsettle rather than a genuine reflection of belief. The players themselves are said to be aware of the chatter, and even if they dismiss it publicly, privately it may well be adding an extra edge to their preparations. In a rivalry where every detail matters, even something as intangible as perceived disrespect can shift the emotional balance. The narrative becomes less about tactics and more about pride, about who can back up their words when it truly counts. The media landscape has, predictably, latched onto the story, with pundits and commentators offering their own interpretations of what these alleged remarks might mean. Some argue that Tavernier is simply expressing a confidence that any top captain should have, backing his own team and setting high standards for what he expects from opponents. Others caution that such comments, especially when they question the technical level of rival players, can backfire spectacularly if results do not align with the rhetoric. There is also the question of context, because without knowing exactly how and when these words were said, it is difficult to judge their true intent. Were they offhand remarks taken out of proportion, or a deliberate statement meant to send a message? The ambiguity only adds to the intrigue, keeping the conversation alive and ensuring that every subsequent development is viewed through the lens of this unfolding rumor. As the story continues to evolve, what stands out most is how quickly speculation can shape the narrative around a player and a rivalry. Tavernier finds himself at the center of a storm that may or may not have originated from his own words, yet the impact is undeniable. The idea that he has openly criticized Celtic players, labeling them as technically inferior, has already taken hold in the minds of many, influencing perceptions and expectations alike. Whether this ultimately proves to be a storm in a teacup or a defining moment in the psychological battle between the two sides remains to be seen. What is certain, however, is that the rivalry has been given yet another layer of intensity, one built not just on history and competition, but on the power of words, whether spoken or merely imagined. As we move deeper into this unfolding situation, there is a growing sense that the rumor surrounding Tavernier's alleged comments is beginning to take on a life far beyond its original source. Conversations among supporters have shifted from curiosity to conviction, with many now speaking as though the remarks were confirmed fact rather than speculation. This is the nature of football discourse, especially in a rivalry as emotionally charged as that between Rangers and Celtic, where even the faintest suggestion of disrespect can echo loudly across both camps. Tavernier's supposed critique of Celtic players, describing them as lacking technical quality, has been dissected from every possible angle, with fans debating which individuals he might have been referring to and whether there is any substance behind the claim. It becomes less about the truth of the statement and more about how it is perceived, how it feeds into existing narratives and biases that supporters already hold dear. Inside the Rangers' support, there is a noticeable split in how this situation is being interpreted. Some fans see the alleged comments as a reflection of the confidence coursing through the squad, a captain unafraid to speak his mind and assert his belief in his team's superiority. They argue that such mentality is exactly what is required to succeed at the highest level, especially in matches where psychological strength can be just as important as physical performance. Others, however, are more cautious, recognizing that words can quickly turn into pressure if they are not backed up on the pitch. They worry that by allegedly dismissing the technical ability of Celtic players, Tavernier may have inadvertently set a standard that his own team will now be expected to meet or exceed. It creates a narrative where anything less than dominance could be seen as a failure, adding an extra layer of scrutiny to every performance that follows. Meanwhile, among Celtic supporters, the rumor has been met with a mixture of disbelief and determination. There is a feeling that such comments, if they were indeed made, underestimate the quality within their squad and overlook the work that has gone into developing their style of play. Fans have been quick to defend their players, pointing to moments of skill and creativity that contradict the idea of a lack of technical ability. At the same time, there is an undercurrent of motivation, a sense that this perceived slight could serve as fuel for future encounters. The idea of proving a rival wrong is a powerful driving force, and if the players themselves have caught wind of these rumors, it could manifest in performances that carry an added intensity. In this way, the speculation surrounding Tavernier's words becomes more than just gossip, it becomes a potential catalyst for action. From a broader perspective, this situation highlights the delicate balance that players must navigate when it comes to expressing opinions about their rivals. In the modern game, where every word can be amplified and scrutinized, even private conversations can quickly become public talking points. Tavernier, as a senior figure and captain, is particularly vulnerable to this kind of attention, with anything he says carrying added weight due to his position. If the rumors are accurate, it raises questions about whether players should be more guarded in their assessments, or whether honesty, even when controversial, has a place in the sport. There is also the possibility that the comments have been exaggerated or taken out of context, transformed into something more provocative than originally intended. In that sense, the story becomes a reflection not just of what was said, but of how football culture interprets and amplifies such moments. As discussions continue to swirl, the focus inevitably returns to the pitch, where any lingering doubts or accusations will ultimately be addressed. Football has a way of cutting through noise and speculation, providing clear answers through performance and results. If Tavernier did indeed question the technical level of Celtic players, then those players now have an opportunity to respond in the most direct way possible, by showcasing their ability when it matters most. Conversely, if Rangers are unable to assert the dominance implied by such comments, it could lead to criticism and reflection within their own ranks. This is the dual nature of bold statements, real or rumored. They create expectations that must be met, turning every subsequent match into a stage where narratives are either confirmed or dismantled. In the end, what makes this rumor so compelling is not just the content of the alleged comments, but the way it encapsulates the essence of one of football's most intense rivalries. The idea that a Rangers captain would openly question the technical ability of Celtic players fits neatly into the broader story of competition, pride, and identity that defines these encounters. Whether true or not, the speculation has already achieved something significant. It has reignited conversations, stirred emotions, and added another layer of intrigue to a fixture that never lacks drama. And as long as the whispers continue to circulate, the shadow of these alleged remarks will linger, influencing how both teams are perceived and how their next meeting is anticipated, with fans on either side eager to see who will ultimately have the final word. As the rumor refuses to fade, it begins to shape not only the narrative around James Tavernier, but also the psychological landscape surrounding both Rangers FC and Celtic FC in a way that feels almost inevitable given the history between these two sides. There is now a growing sense that even those who initially dismissed the story are starting to pay closer attention, if only because of how persistent it has become. The idea that Tavernier may have questioned the technical quality of certain Celtic players lingers in conversations, surfacing in debates, fan discussions, and even subtle remarks from those connected to the game. It becomes a kind of background noise that slowly grows louder, influencing expectations and perceptions without ever being fully confirmed. This is how rivalries evolve, not just through what happens on the pitch, but through the stories that circulate around it, shaping how each side views the other and themselves. Before we proceed, subscribe to our channel and enable notifications to receive all exclusive news about Celtic FC. Don't miss any details about your favorite team. It's extremely important for Celtic FC fans. Within the dressing rooms, one can only imagine how such speculation might be interpreted, especially in an environment where motivation is often drawn from the smallest details. If the Celtic players are indeed aware of what has been said, or what is believed to have been said, it could create a quiet but powerful sense of unity, a shared desire to respond not with words, but with actions that speak louder than any rumor ever could. On the other hand, for Rangers, the situation might reinforce a mindset of confidence, a belief that they possess a technical edge that must now be demonstrated consistently. Tavernier, as captain, would naturally be at the center of this dynamic, whether he intended to be or not, his alleged comments serving as a reference point for both belief and pressure. It is in these unseen moments, away from cameras and microphones, that the true impact of such rumors is often felt most strongly. The broader football community, meanwhile, continues to analyze every angle, with former players and pundits offering contrasting views on what this all might mean. Some suggest that even if Tavernier did make such remarks, they could be part of a long-standing tradition of mind games within fierce rivalries, where unsettling the opposition is as much a tactic as any formation or strategy. Others argue that modern football has little room for such approaches, with the focus increasingly on performance, data, and execution rather than psychological jabs. Yet, despite these differing perspectives, the story persists, perhaps because it taps into something fundamental about the sport, the idea that pride and perception can be just as influential as skill and preparation. In that sense, The rumor becomes a mirror, reflecting not only the rivalry between Rangers and Celtic, but also the way football itself is consumed and discussed. And so, as the speculation continues to ripple through Scottish football, the figure of Tavernier remains at the center of it all, a captain whose alleged words have sparked a conversation that shows no sign of slowing down. Whether this will ultimately be remembered as a moment of genuine controversy or simply another chapter in the ongoing narrative of one of the game's greatest rivalries is still unclear. What is certain, however, is that the story has already left its mark, influencing how players, fans, and observers alike interpret the relationship between these two clubs. In the end, it may not even matter whether the comments were ever truly made, because the impact of the rumor itself has been real enough, adding tension, intrigue, and a sense of anticipation that will carry forward into whatever comes next, keeping everyone watching just a little more closely. Hello, fan. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel, as it means a lot to Celtic FC. Also, share your opinion about the news in the comments below. See you in the next video.